everyone. Happy Monday to everyone out there. Thank you so much for being here and joining us. My name is Michael Mondragon. I'm a brand designer, graphic design educator, and Adobe community expert. Matheo Cadena, you are here. Please introduce yourself and your background.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Matheo Cadena. I'm the chapter lead over at Type Thursday Los Angeles, and I do marketing and design. Done everything from product design to events. And here with Michael today, excited to talk about some typography.
Yes. And I'm also the chapter lead of Type Thursday Phoenix. My titles are getting longer and longer, so I spend a half hour on them. But thank you for joining us. We wanted to jump on a live stream and start really having a constant dialogue, weekly, bi-weekly, as much as we can. And we wanted to talk about design, typography, pop culture, anything that really comes to mind, but definitely with a basis in typography. So Matheo, I'm going to start off with you. What did you have bringing to us today?
Yeah, so as I thought about typography, and we could pull up the presentation here. As I was thinking about typography, one of the things that I love is how you can typeset in many different ways. And we say typeset, it's just about how the arrangement of the letter forms to convey the meaning of the word, right? And for me, before we jump into typography and all these complicated topics and vocabulary words that come with typography, I really wanted to sort of pause and look at typography from a philosophical approach, right? And sort of zoom out a bit and think about it from just kind of a human perspective, right? And a creative perspective. And what does that mean? So I know a big inspiration for you and me both, Michael, is Mr. Michael Stinson. And when we talk about what is typography in LA, anyone who's met Michael Stinson, you can't think of typography without thinking of Michael Stinson and Rachel Elnar, you know? And Michael, tell me your experience with Michael Stinson and type ed.
Yeah, it actually goes back to, I believe it was 2015 or 16 when I started kind of exploring. I had heard about through a lot of networking groups about, typography. And I was like, oh, I know a lot about typography. And it's always been one of my passions. And then I took some of the classes with type ed and learned that I didn't know as much as I thought. And it was very humbling, but also very exciting to learn more about what actually it takes to make these letter forms, what is good typography. And one thing that Michael taught me was much like a song and lyrics and melody, typography has those same qualities. So it was learning that. And when I learned about the rhythm of typography, I really got the essence of what makes great typography. And Michael left a huge impression on me. And that's what's been fueling kind of what we're doing these days with Type Thursday.
Yeah, I want to say the same thing, hearing from Michael Stinson and Rachel Elnar about how typography has a rhythm, a visual rhythm, just like musical notes. And the way the typeset is on the page is like a song, right? The way that you have musical bars. And that was really impressive to me, as it's got me thinking about what is typography in a whole new way, right? We just sort of zoomed out and thought about it beyond the letter forms and more about what else that typography can help us do is, it conveys meaning, right? Typography are symbols that convey meaning. So it's like each letter, it's almost like a mini logo, an icon, a symbol, right? That starts to convey vowels and abstract thoughts and abstract human words and vocalizations, so that when we put them together, we can make whole new meanings. And it gives graphic design and any kind of marketing and communications disciplines, all that fall under that umbrella, the meaning that they have today, right? And so words and letter forms and typography ultimately will never go away, because it's a powerful means for us to communicate with one another visually. And as we start to think about meaning and individual letter forms, that's where we get into this word called glyphs. And so I thought that would be kind of a unique vocabulary word for us to unpack together, Michael. So, conveying meaning, symbols that convey meaning, aka also known as glyphs. Michael, tell me, what did you learn from Michael Stinson about what a glyph is?
So we actually didn't go as far into this as I wish that we could have. A lot of my learning was more about the structure of like how to make sentences and how to make blocks of text look good. But glyphs is something that I knew about, and I also like when I would get fonts, I would look and see the glyphs that were in there, and I was always amazed that sometimes they were almost like Easter eggs. Like, and a lot of type designers would actually put these really cool little glyphs and if you were to search them out, you could use them for different things. And so, but I know that they have a lot more function in other typography and typefaces as well. So definitely do expand on this.
Yeah, I would say in general, a glyph individually is like the individual letter forms. If we were to zoom in to a letter, right, like the L, it has its own shape and arc and movements and serif, right? So the individual letter is a glyph. And then you can make variables of that glyph with any font. And so you could have an L and you can have three variations of the L that you can swap out and pick a different glyph to represent the L. This is really helpful when there's like something like a ornamental font that you're designing that can change. Really helpful for any non-Latin vocabularies or words that we try to build, right? There's a lot of different iterations of the same sort of letter form, and then you want to iterate on that so it can connect to a different letter in a different way. So a glyph is just that individual letter form and how it can be represented visually to, be the representation for the G or the L or the Y or any of those characters in the alphabet in our Latin alphabet A through Z. So for glyph, we can think about it as kind of something that helps us start to identify the individual ideas, right? When the glyphs come together, they make this beautiful sort of typography, but they also start to make words as they come together. So that's how glyphs sort of have inspired us to think about typography in different ways. So in the next sort of question for us is to say, so what is type? Michael, to your best explanation, how would you explain type?
So I heard it just recently, but I wish I would have had this in my arsenal before. But typography is how language looks, and I thought that's super profound. So whenever I look at different typefaces, I take that in consideration. How is this communicating what's being said? And so hopefully I'm pretty close on that. I'd love to hear your definition of it as well.
Yeah. So for what is type, zooming out and zooming in, typography, we can also use the word type. And type also is interchangeable. A lot of times people say font or type. And what we're saying when we're talking about type is like the actual typeset form. When we say font, we're talking about a font and maybe the font family and font pairings. Those are like, you can think of Helvetica, you can think of Arial, you can think of serifs or sans serifs, different fonts. And type is just sort of the generalized way to say all of these different letters, all of these different characters, all of these different concepts, and all these maybe different conversations that we're having around typography. So we can use the word type, we can use the word typography, and they can sort of think of it as an abstract way as we're talking about this discipline for communication. So what is typography? Ultimately, I think one philosophical way to think about what is typography is it's a way to express yourself visually. So it gives you these symbols and these icons and these glyphs so that you can start to express yourself visually and start to convey your own meaning when you're putting these words together. So that said, I also want to make this final point about how typography is truly an extension of the human experience, right? Because we can use typography in so many different ways. But what we're always doing when we're using typography is we are capturing our thoughts and ideas, and we're creating a medium, a book, or a graphic, or a poster, or a social media post that can help exchange and send that message to someone else. So it's like psychic communication. Type is a superpower in a way because it's extending the human experience and allowing us to document this human experience. And from there, I'll pass it over to you, Michael. Zooming out and thinking about this at a big way, what do you think about typography as an extension of the human experience here?
Yeah, I mean, typography in itself, just even like the words, like character, when we use that word, it actually, characters have different qualities, right? And visually, we get a sense of different feelings and emotions from typography,
Yeah.
and so, like for instance, there's a reason why you sign in script on something that's official, or like a wedding invitation. It's that feeling that maybe like Comic Sans would have a different feeling, right?
Yeah.
And I'm picking on Comic Sans, but actually, we should actually have this discussion later. I saw someone present at Creative Pro Week in defense of Comic Sans. It actually has this purpose. But yes, you're absolutely right on that. And I'm just going to add my presentation here. And you're right, in these letter forms, how we see them, how we connect with them. And unfortunately, a man passed away yesterday that actually had a big effect on a lot of the things that have been in my life. And I didn't even know this.
Yeah.
He died one day short of his 104th birthday.
Oh, wow.
And Joe Karoff. And for those who don't know, and even I had to be educated on who this man was, but I've seen his work throughout my whole life. And one of the things that he's most famous for is this right here.
Oh,
It
wow.
is the James Bond logo, the 007.
Double
And yes, and it's iconic today. And Michael Beirut posted on his Instagram, and this is what he said about him. And it was actually it's a great succinct description of him. It says, prolific and unheralded graphic designer Joe Karoff died yesterday, one day short of his 104th birthday. He designed some of the most iconic movie posters of the 20th century, but you probably know him best for this 1962 James Bond logo, which he was paid $300 for. And in today's money, that would be $3,209.
Mhm.
So at the time, it was actually a lot of money, but it seems like today, by today's standards, not very much. And again, this seems so perfect and such a iconic logo, but I'm sure there was iterations of this, and even this logo has changed over time as well. So it started in 1962, and then you can see here how it even got like thinner and taller, a condensed version in 1973, and went back to some of the it was refined over time, basically.
Yeah.
And today, this is the way that the logo looks on the official home store of James Bond, and you can see it's definitely refined, but still has the same qualities of the original. And and so this was obviously his biggest accomplishment. If you were to say, what is it? But as I did a little bit more digging on him, he actually had some posters that blew me away that he did. And one of them was, he didn't do the Olympic rings. Now, the Olympic rings has been around since 1913. instantly recognizable. If you were to, and I'm just joking here, but like even using this, I'm a little trepidatious because you can't use this in any form. I think it's like the saying Super Bowl. You can only say the big game. So it has a lot of trademark around it. But he designed around this great and instantly recognizable icon. He did this for ABC, which
No,
seems like an obvious way to use it. But again, this did not exist before this man created it. And so again, this is like perfection. And when we talk about like these days of AI and other forms of how logos are made today, just type it in, right? There's a lot of craftsmanship in this, and it's so good. And there's a lot of, and obviously, at looking at it, it can be refined, right? But for the time, it's still mind blowing that this did not exist before that, right?
yeah,
And even like West Side Story, it's like this did not exist before him. And also Last Tango in Paradise, he created his own typeface. So
wow.
these letter forms were literally made by hand back in the day. So I mean, Matteo, like you're significantly younger than I am, but
Yeah,
you've seen these
yeah.
throughout your whole life as well. What do you think of these?
Well, for iconic recognition, 007 growing up in the 90s, we were playing that game on the Nintendo 64, which was entirely like based off of and riffing off of the whole James Bond, era. And and I'm sure they, took the logo and, everything. So it was cool to see that like, oh, this person who had an impact in typography had an impact on my life and maybe even my early childhood exposure to the logo design and the typography choices, and love James Bond growing up, right? And like the iconic advertisements that came with that, and then seeing the Olympic rings and the ABC logo. It's that ultimate simplification of something that it's like design is done when you can no longer take an element away. He perfected that there, and the ABC logo is like, it's not complicated. It's very simple. It almost looks like you said it's the easy option because it's so well thought through and connected to the original identity and to the ABC identity. And that's good design. Good design and good typography begins to become invisible, but it is an extension of us as people in the human experience. And again, here with West Side Story, I've seen and heard of this for a long time, and then seeing the story of like it's the struggle growing up, and but then how he connected the type and it looks like the stairs, right, so to the city, to where the scene takes place, where the whole show takes action. So you instantly sort of tie this typography together with this visual symbolism of what the whole story is about, which is really cool. So yeah, for me, it's great to see his work, and it's great to look at this body of work, and again just kind of goes back to that point that typography is an extension of the human experience in so many ways, right? That's different for everybody.
Yeah, and these movie posters are, a definite way that back at least back in the, I'm trying to think back, like even back to maybe the 30s, 40s, and 50s, definitely the 60s, but like they sold the movie. When they were up, like people, it garnered interest because again, there was no internet.
Yeah.
You had to go to the movies to see the trailers of the movies and the different, and they would put the movies, in there, and it was a part of kind of like the movie experience as well. And when you look at some of these, and I believe that the director of Rollerball said to Joe that you've made a poster better than my movie. And so yeah, and it's again, it's very futuristic, and again, there was a lot of I remember a lot of movie posters from the 60s that tried to initiate this type of typography to convey futuristic or kind of digital, and but also very very kind of spooky in a way. It's kind of like, what
Yeah.
is this? What is rollerball? And so it's definitely going back to my early roots of creating logos and using typefaces was, the right type for the right project. So he had to create the type for the project, which
Wow.
was, I'm sure, like the degree of difficulty must have been massive. And
Yeah.
even for like a movie, Manhattan, this seems like an obvious. Oh, make them like buildings. It seems obvious, but it hadn't been done before this, right? It's very perfect. It's also stark. It works with the visuals of this movie, and it's black
Yeah.
and white, and it's one of those great emotion that movies give you. And I
Mhm.
think, and I'm not trying to say that today's movies don't have this, but there was a certain difference about these posters then to today.
Versus now. And then you think about back then you didn't have all the technology you have today. You didn't have the software tools. You didn't have at the click of a button, you can make these effects now. But back in his era of designing, he was having to figure all of this out piece by piece, layer by layer, getting all in the rollerball poster. It's that lighting, it's that visual noise, it's that haunting, luminous, theater like lighting that's dramatic, with the typography, typeset in a unique way. The rollerball font being something he probably had to create by hand and then try to digitize. And now you can go pick a font and click a button and you've got all these effects happening for you, from the lighting to the visual noise. So designing today feels a lot quicker, a lot faster. So if my respects to his work, because he did so much at a time where he had to do way more to get the results, the visual results, and it's stunning. It's striking. And then Manhattan too. It's typography is and design. The best design is invisible. Typography invites you in to read and then lets your mind begin to interpret the message and then disappears again, so you can forget about the letter form, right? So, and that's what happens here in Manhattan. Typeset the way it is, it invites you in and you visually understand right away it's the city, and then you're sort of invited with all this white space, negative space, to sort of explore the poster and the feeling that he's giving you here. So this is great design on in so many levels.
Yeah, you're right. And one of the things that just occurred to me too is, well, two things. There was also tagline. So if you notice in Rollerball where it says, in the not too distant future, wars will no longer exist, but there will be Rollerball.
That's right.
A tagline sometimes sucks you in as well. It's like even kind of like, oh, what is this? What it's that intrigue, right? And if you look at Manhattan, like Manhattan is a big city in a huge population. But if you notice, it has two people in this big city. And even Manhattan is very small. So it like, if you look at Rollerball, it kind of like equally is prominent. But in Manhattan, it's kind of subdued.
Yeah.
Like you actually have to kind of search for it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's 100% on purpose. And as you look at some of these other, A Bridge Too Far, he also did, the Beatles, Hard Day's Night. So this would have been like what, 64, 65, I think. So, I mean, he definitely, these are all very in tune for what was being presented as these movies. And again, this was advertising. But also this movie was like I think it was in the early 80s. And when this poster was put on subway walls, like it was actually kind of rebelled against, and people would go and rip it down and did not like the themes that it was putting out there. And again, going back to this tagline, every great love leaves its mark. It's again that intrigue of like, what is this about? I was actually fortunate enough when I first moved to Los Angeles. One of my first jobs was doing key art, which is what this is called. These posters are called key art. And I was actually working with a very, very accomplished, he was a copywriter. And so he would write these really great wordplay taglines like this to go with the posters that I was doing. And it got me into this part of it as well. So when we're talking about typography, even the taglines you see are complementary to the title as well.
Yeah. I love that, and it goes into good copywriting leads to inspiring good design, you know, and it's again it's what is typography but the extension of the human experience, and you know glyphs that convey visual meaning, and here we are using all those ideas together. We're conveying meaning through the collection of these certain words and copywriting combined with these visuals that give you a feeling and an emotion immediately, and just get you, like you said, it's that intrigue, it's that we're capturing the audience's attention right away and we're cutting through the noise, and that's good design that just cuts through noise. And I feel like nowadays we don't get that with a lot of like the instant gratification design, you know, certain tools that try to speed up design. It's like they don't cut through the noise as effectively as when we've got a mastermind behind it, like Joe, you know, who's crafting these things, and a copywriter probably he worked with, or they, you know, they always work in teams. So, oh, yes, you're absolutely right that there's more to the craft than the final execution, and a lot of times good design is helped by good copywriting and thought, you know, behind all this.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, again, I'm going back to the, like, what modern times, like AI, it's all about doing it faster, right? Faster, faster, faster. But sometimes when you slow down and you actually kind of assess it and come with an approach, and come with a good idea, it's easy to execute, right? This is a great idea, you know, for this. You know, it creates intrigue. It also creates, you know, a curiosity. And another thing too is even kind of how they, you know, display the actors, the director in this. That little text block is actually very intentional as well. And you know, the order of, the star who's starring in this. And again, now this was kind of, if you think about it, the fact that this poster for Cabaret was actually turned on its side and it's actually unreadable, right, at first glance. But actually, it's very intentional in kind of how, what the theme of the movie is, and how kind of loose and playful, and life is a cabaret. It's actually, it really goes to the theme of the movie, just in the way that the typography is displayed,
Yeah.
right? And a fistful of dollars, you know, iconic movie as well. The way that they use the negative space and in the type on the subject, it's so well planned and very striking in so many ways.
Yeah, I love both of these, especially the cabaret, that typeface that was probably, is that handmade, right? It looks very 70s, 60s, groovy, you know, very fun, very playful. And then, like you said, turning it on its side, like just breaking the convention. But it catches your attention in this way, and a lot more, you know. So it's again, good design is cutting through the visual noise. Good use of typography is conveying meaning visually, and it becomes not just letters anymore. When all these letters are united, all these glyphs form an image right away in our mind. We see this, and it's not just letter forms. It's, you know, it's inviting us in to read, and so we can then read the letter forms. So it's something like just capturing our heart and our souls in a really beautiful way. So yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, just even the way that, like, a fistful of dollars, you know, the spaghetti westerns were definitely a very unique shot movie, meaning the way that the movies actually looked was very unique. And we could go, you know, another hour on spaghetti western type of movies, but and spaghetti, because they were actually filmed in Italy. They weren't filmed here in the United States. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No.
But yeah, it was a type of movie. But these had a certain look, so even the poster is reminiscent of that type of look.
Yeah.
And now, are you ready for a degree of difficulty? How would you like to be the person that was tasked with creating the last temptation of Christ, creating this poster? Like, where would you even start,
Yeah.
right? And it's a very polarizing, a very it's a very tricky subject, and again, flawlessly, executed here. A Zelig is another one that it's these are stark differences, but you can see the degree of difficulty in both of these of like how do you create emotion? How do you create
Mm,
curiosity? And ultimately, will you go see these movies because of these posters?
mm, yeah. I think what we see here is like he had a really good use, a masterful use of negative space in all of his posters. So there's always a lot of breathing room. The typography can breathe. That allows your eyes to come in visually and see the message and be curious about what is this saying. And the Last Temptation, right away we've got this really striking red that grabs your attention, and the thorns sort of like going to that's tying into the symbolism of temptation. So good design and good typography combined, this is, again, it's playing on the symbolism, the meaning behind all of this, the greater story behind it all, and gets us as humans really curious, right? We're more curious to be like, I've got to go see this movie, and I want to know what it's about, or let me lean in and see more. And same with Zillig. At first glance, I was like, okay, this, the use of the repetition in the word, but a lot of space, a lot of negative space there, and it's sort of slightly putting it to the right, right? It's not center, and a lot of people think, oh, just center my design and everything in typography, and I've got a good layout. It's like, no, he's actually created a dynamic tension because it's an asymmetrical design. So there's asymmetry happening, which captures our attention even more, and because it stands out. It's not perfect. So something about this is standing out to us in a way that captures our attention, and again invites us to read. Like you said, the text down below here, like who are the actors? I see Woody Allen. It's the one that I recognize. So it draws your attention in to he's guiding you through a journey here with his use of design and typography, which I really love.
Yeah, and obviously Woody Allen has today, by today's standards, is kind of like it took a ding on his reputation, but back in the 60s and 70s, his movies were really well attended and well seen. But this movie was in actually 1983, and it's actually a fictional documentary about a man who achieves notoriety. Notoriety, say that 10 times fast, for his ability to look and act like anyone he meets. So in this typography, you have 6 different typefaces here and type treatments.
Yeah.
It actually conveys that, and it's actually very, very interesting, right? And the purple rose of Cairo. So I can already tell that this was handmade as well. And then also something I've seen before a movie all the time. Orion, he created this as well. Are you familiar what Orion is?
No, I feel like I'm missing the context on this one. This might have been yeah, when I was too young to catch it.
Well, it's actually it actually goes way back. I love just the word Orion ever since I kind of knew what it was, but it actually has 2 main definitions: a prominent constellation in the night. It also is a well-known. Let's see, in Greek mythology, Orion was a giant hunter, and so it actually has kind of a further meaning. But here it's used actually as a movie company. But I used to see this all the time before, selected movies. I couldn't tell you which movies they were, but I definitely recognized this very well. But he created all of these, and it's actually it's such an impressive body of work. And I found out that he actually has a documentary on him that it's actually on HBO Max, which I'm going to watch tonight because I feel like I should have known who this man is, because he really influenced a lot of the visual things that were in my life. So this is actually a good lesson in a lot of people, as artists, we all want to be known. We all want to do these big things, but this man lived over 100 years and I didn't know who he was. And I'm actually doing a deep dive on him, unfortunately the day after he passes. But again, we deserve as artists to do the research and really go after our passions, and it's going to make us better as artists in the end. I just wanted to stop on that one. What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit a good point here. Is it's like we all want that recognition, and in order to obtain that, I feel like the research is a key piece of this, and sort of digging deeper, understanding where things come from, knowing the context to when these things were designed, when these posters were designed by Joe Karoff, also gives you more appreciation for them, because you understand that there weren't tools that you could just click a button and get this effect off of. You had to manually, draft these things by hand, create these letter forms by hand, and now we have so many tools that do it for us. So there's just my respects to Joe Karoff and seeing his body of work, and it just kind of inspires me, like you said, as a designer, as a creative, to want to go and play and do more stuff by hand, because there are a lot of ways in which we can create it on the computer, and it's sort of quick and optimized. But I think, like you said earlier, is if you slow down, in that process of slowing down, you also find a tempo that is uniquely you, and tap into your unique creativity, and finding symbolism and meaning between the project you're working on, and then your experiences, and then unifying that to make a visual intrigue that can get your audience's attention and pull them in. So I think this is a really cool examination of Joe Karoff's work, and again, just goes back to how typography is truly an extension of the human experience in so many ways.
Absolutely. Rest in power,
Yeah.
Joe. We hardly knew ye, but we knew ye, right? And more than we all knew. And an amazing designer, an amazing artist, and definitely a person that's inspired me to go back to the drawing board, as it were, and
Yeah.
really get back to my roots. Because again, I'm not saying that AI won't make things like this in the future, but there's always that human element that it's that I feel like artists need to tap into, and that will separate us from the rest. And if you want to hear more about that and you're in the Phoenix area, please come to Type Thursday. We're on August 28th, 2025 at Dialogue. And if you go to our Instagram, you can find us. And Matteo,
Yes, and
you also have August 20th as well.
that's right. If you're in Los Angeles, come join us at Type Thursday Los Angeles. We will be at Art Center College, HMCT. Shout out to HMCT, Hoffman's Milken Center for Typography, for being a wonderful host, and located in Pasadena, California. And we'll be there talking about typography, our audience sharing their experiences and education with our presenters, so that everyone in the room is learning together this difficult practice, right? A lot of time we spend in front of the computer just trying to design, maybe talking to clients and getting feedback from clients. It's not the same. One of the things we hear from our community of people who come is that they love to talk with other designers and hear feedback from other creatives of what they're working on, because it just gives them that inspiration and that fuel that then carries into their work throughout the week. So come get your creative fuel at Type Thursday Phoenix or Type Thursday Los Angeles. Hopefully we see you there.
Absolutely. So please, where can we find you on all the socials?
Yeah, you can check me out, Matheo Cadena. I'm at Matteo Mr. Owl on Instagram. Follow Type Thursday LA on Instagram. And you, Michael?
Yes. Actually, let me.
Also LinkedIn. You can check us out on LinkedIn. Matheo Cadena, Michael Mondragon.
Yes, if you use this QR code, you can give me a LinkedIn. Hopefully you're watching on LinkedIn. We're already connected, but I'm also at Mondragon Design on Instagram. Also, Type Thursday PHX on Instagram. We're trying to build that, so please go over there and learn about all of our events. So, Matteo, thank you for joining me today. Hopefully we'll be back soon, maybe in a week, maybe in 2 weeks. We'll figure that out. But thank you for joining me today and talking typography.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, for having me. And this was a great conversation. I absolutely loved it, and got more inspiration, ready to go, ready to tackle the work this week.
Love it. Love it. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.